Hello, I'm John McAngus, and welcome back to another episode of the Highland League podcast. Today's guest is Fraserburgh's Jamie Beagrie. He talks about starting out in the youth setup at Aberdeen, joining Fraserburgh, going on to play for Peterhead, Cove, Turriff, and coming back to Fraserburgh. His highlights include win the league with Cove, success with Fraserburgh, and he's due to play it in his testimonial this weekend. Hope you enjoy this interview.
First of all, kind of Jamie, what's your kind of earliest memories of football when you were little?
I suppose a lot of mine's come from my dad. When he was still playing, a player manager, we was kind of brought up in Cruising Bay, so again taking along to their games, playing. It was before the game, half time stuff, going on a junior pitch there. Then through Aberdeen, training with the youth team at Aberdeen. So it'd be like under sevens when we started this, under seven, under eights, and then progressing through Aberdeen youth basically up to under 17s. In the end, would be the earliest memories, definitely.
Yeah, so what was it like kind of going through the youth ranks at Aberdeen at that young age?
Brilliant, yeah. It's an unbelievable experience. You're playing Hearts, Hibs, Celtic Rangers week in, week out. You're training 3 days a week, which travelling from our area is a lot of travelling, don't I get me wrong, and
Hmm.
probably a lot on your mum and dad taking you through at the time. But no, it's a great experience. You're playing with the best boys, the best players from the area. You're up against them every day or every training session. You're playing against the best players in Scotland every Sunday during the games. We were fortunate enough as well to get some trips to London and Ireland. So playing your Chelsea's, Arsenal's, Fulham, Leeds United, West Ham type of thing as well. So probably the best time of my football career was under 17s, 15s, 14s type of thing.
Do you remember any kind of the players that stood out for you that you played against?
So I think out of the ones we played against, John Fleck for Rangers would have been the one that made it from our age group. With us, you had like so who would have been in our team that would be making it. Ryan Jack, Peter Pollitt, who are playing the testimonial for Peterhead now, and a number of players playing for like Cove and Peterhead just now. Your Scott Rosses, Blair Ewell, Connor
Hmm.
Scully, that kind of group that, in my opinion, have done extremely well in football as well, getting up to League One Championship kind of level. So a lot of good players in that age, to be honest. Yeah,
Yeah, so did you ever think you were ever gonna, before you got released and stuff, did you ever think you were gonna make it or get through or
yeah. I think everybody
yeah.
probably thinks it could have, should have, would have made it at some point. You're there for that long. You're part of the furniture at that age, to be honest, coming through the ranks. So could have, would have, should have made it. Yeah, just didn't get the right breaks or wasn't the right time for me at Aberdeen. Roll a year on down the line, and I did get offered a full time contract at Dundee to go full
Mhm.
time in the end, but turned that down at 16 in favour of going through an apprenticeship and work. So opportunities were there just at the time, and work felt the better option to go and get an apprenticeship behind you, which I don't know, you maybe regret that slightly now, but at the same time, it's probably the right decision.
Yeah, it's especially when you're only 16, you don't know what's going to happen in terms of
Yeah,
full-time football.
exactly.
Where was that only like a 1 year deal or what
So
was?
yeah, 1 2 year deal, so very short term. It's funny. In the same summer, we got offered full time football with Dundee to do an American scholarship
Yeah.
across the states, or do an apprenticeship with the Peto. The three biggest choices of my life, probably what career I would go down, was all in the same summer. And after speaking to family, some people that are involved with the Peto apprenticeship scheme, ended up going for that rather than a football scholarship in America or full time football in Dundee. So
Yeah. So do you remember who was the Dundee manager that at that time or?
Billy Dodds. He was in contact with my old man to see if I'd go down to Dundee for a while. But yeah, and then it's probably the right decision long term not to take something like that because, as you say, 1 2 year contracts aren't really ideal. So there was better offers on the table, albeit out with football, which kind of put an end to the football career as such by going through an oil and gas apprenticeship and going offshore.
Yeah. So how did you find like going to the Highland League after after those experiences?
Loved it. So, 15, I was playing for alongside in the juniors. 16-year-old playing for Fraserburgh in the Highland League, starting most weeks at 16. Charlie, to be fair to him, said that if you're good enough, you're old enough, was a statement when I signed. I did have a couple of training sessions with Peterhead, but they said you're probably too young to play in our team. But again, fair play to Charlie. He went through a lot of youth players and all the rest of it through his spell, and he was true to his word. Said if you're good enough, you're old enough to play my team. Stuck to his word, and the same majority of the time was in the team at 16. So I would suggest it's a good grounding for any young kid coming through the ranks to go and play men's football in the Highland League rather than playing the kind of juveniles or youth setups.
Yeah, so how great was that beat, and how did you kind of adjust to kind of the physicality of the league at that age?
So it is tough. Who did we have up against? Probably players that aren't really no longer anymore. Spider himself, Bucky kind of time. You had Tommy Wilson, Stilliot, Keith, Brad Brown, like I said, Russ Days and that at Devon Vale. So it was a very physical league, probably a bit like it is just now. But you either got to get on with it and learn how to play it, or these kind of players will just eat you up and you want to get a touch of the ball during a game. So
Yeah.
no, it was good, a very good grounding.
Yeah, so in terms of how key was the manager? You said he like always believed in, the motto of, young players, if you're good enough. How important was he to your kind of development?
So Charlie was good. He just let you play. As I say, if you're good enough, you're old enough with him. So I had a great basis at Aberdeen for technically and all the rest of it like that, fitness wise, and it's just a case of getting minutes at adult level. And Charlie's a perfect manager to give youth that chance and just go and let them play. Didn't overcomplicate it too much. Just as I say, if you're good enough, then go for it. You'll play centre mid or wherever you play for your position and go and do your best.
What was it like playing in those kind of Fraserburgh teams? They were really good teams at the time.
Yeah, so we had an excellent team actually for that last season. I was there for the first spell with like say Graham Johnston, probably one of if not the best player I played with. Gizzy is a striker. Your Russells, your Paul Weisks, Mark Dixon at the back, Mainzers, Jamie Ralphs. Brilliant team. Alan Hale, who's now manager at Elgin on the wing with pace. So we probably thought we should have over a chance to win the league that final year that I was there. I think we came joint second in the end. But then we just never kicked on after that and kind of left 6 months after that season, halfway through the next season.
Yeah, so obviously you went on to play for Peterhead. How did you find that?
So what happened? I went to Cove, and then as part of the Cove kind of deal moving on to Peterhead, Roy McBain moved in the opposite direction.
Okay.
And the agreement with Peterhead was I would sign there if they would get me a job on shore, because playing at the slightly higher level, so we'll go there and we'll get the job on shore. And the job on shore never really materialised. So it meant the spell at Peterhead was very short-lived, and there wasn't really much point in sticking around with the work side of things. So it was just a very swift move on back in the Highland League where you could kind of work away from home, still play football. And Turriff was a perfect fit at the time.
Yeah, so how did you find Turriff at that time?
Great club. Was kind of looking to progress on. I liked their ambition. They were looking to invest in the team. They were looking to invest in the ground. Probably got best facilities, best pitch kind of ground there is in the league, in my opinion. Nowadays, the setup they've got, and they just look like they were a club on a good trajectory forward, to be honest. And they wanted to push for the league. Again, it was fortunate. It was an excellent Turriff team at the time. Unfortunately, it was Baxter and Mark Simpson that kind of brought me in, and they never lasted too much longer after that. And then Ross Jack came in, and a couple more signings, and where the second in the league was at Brora, which was a very good Brora team in the end. But again, no, Turriff are excellent club.
Yeah, so I mean, those teams you had the sort of like McAngus, Harris,
Yeah.
Magoo, different players. How good a team? Because obviously, without the deduction, there could have been a more of a chance of winning it because the deduction of the points. Because the boy Archie got
Yeah.
fielded. Yeah.
But he was a different centre half. Came out of nowhere. I didn't even know where Ross found it, to be honest. Absolutely quality signing. One of the best signings I've seen in the Highland League for a centre half out of nowhere. But he was different, a different type of guy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I remember I watched that Turriff team quite a lot, and I thought he was quite underrated in terms of
Definitely,
the
yeah.
team.
Because he wasn't the quickest at centre half. So he wasn't really mobile, but he read the game well. He's a good passer. He was so calm and composed on the ball. It was almost scary how calm he was on the ball. But brilliant. He had a good finish on it as well. I think he ended up being a penalty taker for a while.
Yeah, he
Hardly
fairly.
missed a penalty. But now, I don't know where he is now, to be honest. I don't even know if he's still.
They seem to be wanting to invest and was Ross Jack not full time? I don't was he full time at that time or
I don't know if it was officially like full time as manager, but between that and maybe up at Ace Winches,
yeah.
where the kind of setup they had there, you could argue was.
So did you play much games with Darren Mackey when he was at Turriff or?
So we actually signed in about the same week.
Yeah.
If not almost the same kind of day. Me and Darren, but he wasn't there overly long. Injuries and other commitments and that kind of meant he couldn't progress quite as much as I think Turriff hoped he would as a signing.
Were you the bigger marquee signing then?
Well, unfortunately, they never told me they were signing Darren Mark at the same time, so I think he got most of the credit in the papers.
Also at Turriff, what were your kind of our highlights that you remember from that time?
Turriff, the good thing about Turriff, it was just a great bunch of teammates, a really good bunch of teammates. You could go through every single one of them. Great, but good nights out in Aberdeen, good trips, just a really good feel about the club, if I'm being honest. The club was going in the right direction. They got a good manager in Ross Jack there that wanted to progress them further forward as well. So I would say if we'd won the league or nearly won the league, it would be the obvious standout. But no, just an all-round good club, good committee, good chairmans at the time, etc. And I've got a lot of time for everybody at Turriff, to be honest.
Yeah, so what were you once you left, were you always looking to go back to Fraserburgh at some point or?
Yeah, so I suppose my old man played at Fraserburgh. It's local to us. At the time, it was easier I'd done a bit of travelling. I'd done what I wanted to do. I won the league with Cove. It was kind of time to come back closer to home, so a lot more family could come and watch. If I'm being honest, was the biggest driver for me. Training as well, travelling that 40 minutes to an hour twice a week, and then it was kind of getting a stage that Broch again starting to show development coming through, looking to challenge for things more often, win cups. So the time was right almost to come back more local and fit in with the local team.
Yeah, so how different was it playing? Obviously, you'd grown up so much and had so much experience by then.
It was totally different, but the club had also changed quite a lot as well. When we trained at the first time I was there was no training kits, no kind of gear like that. You could turn up in an Aberdeen strip, a Brazil strip, whatever you wanted. That had all changed and become a lot more professional. Your training gear, so it felt more like the other clubs that I'd been to, which was good. A lot of the faces were still the same, which is good again. It makes it easier to kind of bed back in. You've got like some Willie West that had been there for 50 years, Brian Hay 40 years, and all the rest of it. So again, just a great bunch of lads that had been there since they were 16, 17-year-old themselves and stayed, to be fair to them, through the good days and the bad days. I just Broch legends really and made me feel welcome coming back.
So how important do you think that's been for Fraserburgh in terms of keeping a team together and keeping these? Because a lot of clubs tend to go through a stage and then all their players get poached and then.
It's huge. I don't think there's another club in the I was going to say in the country, but certainly in the league, that would have as much people set up for testimonials or longevity. We was at a dinner the other day, the Fraserburgh Sportsman's dinner, and you've got Willie sitting there. He's two appearances away from breaking the club record or something. You've got Brian Hay that's not far behind him. You've got Fig that's across the table. It was on 400 odd. It's got another couple hundred ahead of him. Joe Barber's due, must be coming up to 10 years or a long type of thing. And it's crazy to see really how much good servants the club's got, how much people want to play for the club and stay and play for the club and do their best for it. It's quite remarkable, to be honest.
You've won the Highland League. How amazing was that for yourself? And
brilliant. As I say, at our level, there's no better achievement than winning the Highland League. So to do it firstly at Cove, amazing, scoring a goal in the game at Martin, but it was the winner takes all through there. And then again, seeing a sellout at Belsley where the kickoff was delayed because there was that much people trying to get into the game, that last game against Forest. Unfortunately, didn't really turn up away to Bonnyrigg, and they beat us in the playoff. But for the town to see that many people turning up at that game against Forest to see us win the league and everybody on the pitch kind of thing after, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, how did you? I mean, how do you find it? How well Fraserburgh's competed with your likes of Broders, your Brecons, your Formartins, like all those teams. That it's fair they have big backing behind them over the years.
There's no doubt about it, and there's no secret made that these clubs spend more than us, or their budgets are bigger than us, or their players earn more wages than Fraser, whatever it is. But I think it just shows you how strong the characters are at Fraserburgh to stick by their club. As I say, you've got the amount of long servants there is, except even every single player there would have been offered probably to go to different clubs throughout the course of their year or been tapped in some way, but they've stayed with their club and they've got the benefits of it as well, because you could argue that they've won as much trophies, cups as any other club in the time that I've been at Fraserburgh anyway. When you put your Aberdeenshire shields and cups and leagues, Brora probably beating us in the League Cup a few times. Apart from that, we've not done too badly.
What was it like beating kind of Brecon to league? Because obviously when they came down, there was all the expectation that they were going to coast. I mean, certain people said this, that they were going to coast it and that it was always going to be them. How did you find that?
Yeah, I can imagine the whole league probably enjoyed it in some sort of way, but the Beagrie were a brilliant team, and as you said before, probably had a lot bigger budget than we had at the Broch. But I think there was that game that sticks out in everybody's memory when we're 3-0 down against them away from home, and somehow turned it around, got a goal back. Then they went down to 10 then and ended up beating them 5-3 in their home patch, and that was kind of the moment I think everybody came back. I remember a few of us went for a night out after it as well, and it was kind of sat there and went, oh, we do actually have a chance of winning this league now, and give everybody the confidence it needed to kind of push on and get it done.
Yeah. How important do you think, obviously, the quality of the team, but in terms of you work as a team, how important is that?
Huge. Absolutely vital to the way we play as well. Is if you speak to a lot of teams, they'll hate playing against us. They just don't give them a minute, don't let them rest, don't let them get into the game, just get after them, which has proven successful so far. And I think a lot of teams will try and use that as well in their kind of philosophies going forward as due to our success.
So in terms of, obviously you've won our cups as well. Which ones have kind of been the standout for you so far?
The problem with the cups is they've never won the League Cup. So I think I've been beaten in the final 5 times in the League Cup. So if I do get to the final next season, then I'll probably go on holiday or something. But the cups are great. Aberdeenshire Cups, people say that they don't really mean nothing. They're just within Aberdeenshire. You don't get anything out of them. It's 4 games or 3 games and you win a cup. But when you look at the standard of the teams in Aberdeenshire, you're almost playing against the ones that are competing for the top 6 in the league. When you consider your Formartins, your Buckies, your locals, etc., Banks of Day, you've got to beat some of the best teams in the Highland League even just to win an Aberdeenshire Cup or Shield. So, yeah, would I prefer to win the Highland League Cup? Yes, but a couple of Aberdeen Share Cups and Shields definitely makes the season a bit better.
In terms of obviously our key moments have been kind of Scottish Cup memories. We'll go back a bit. Obviously, you played Rangers twice. So what do you remember about the first occasion? Because obviously that was a very significant one, just in terms of and faced a team like that, you know.
So the first one again, it's quite a strange one. It was meant to be on a Sunday, and I was at home, and it got cancelled with the weather, so it meant that I ended up having to go offshore for the rearranged fixture. And I was lucky enough that my manager offshore managed to get me in a helicopter the day before the game to come back to play, and then went back to work the next day, basically offshore. So a bit of a strange circumstance when you're playing against Cranchar, who's training every single day, and then I've just done a couple of night shifts offshore and came back again, played against Rangers. But I would say the build up to the first game, I personally enjoyed as much, if not more, than the Ibrox game, just because it was local.
Yeah.
There was a buzz about the place. Rangers were coming up. You knew it was going to be a packed sellout crowd. You knew basically there would be in the crowd type of thing. I actually enjoyed the first game as much, if not more, than the second game based on that. And it's a smaller pitch, so you didn't have to feel like you ran 100 kilometres in the first half to try and chase after the boys and hardly get a touch of the ball.
Do you have any kind of funny moments or kind of moments that stand out in that game that you...
I suppose being up against Cranchar and how he was out with a cigar playing and we were all running around like headless chickens and he's telling us to calm down even though he's playing against us type of thing. And
right.
He's just out for a stroll about basically, and we were all breathing out our arse. But no, I would say he was a standout memory from the game.
Yeah. Were you not tempted to put in a couple of heavy challenges?
How was I? But I was that knackered I couldn't get near anybody. So. But I do remember Windass in that. I think there's a couple of interviews he's had since, and he showed them because he scored a hat trick, and his comments was basically, "Oh, that pitch, look at the fucking state of it," because it was an absolute field. It was just a disaster that pitch, but I think the Rangers players were too impressed.
Aye, but was it not like piss and rain and stuff?
It was, yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
In the northeast, you know.
Again, but I think they got a bit of a shock on how bad it could be. But I think they were happy to get their 3-0 win in the end.
Yeah. So how did you? Obviously, you played down at Ibrox as well. How did you find that experience? Obviously, big pitch and.
So yeah, you didn't realise just how big the pitches are until you go and play on them and you get the run around for a while. I think we did all right for the first half, although we didn't get many touches of the ball. Our shape was quite good. We kind of frustrated them. You could tell that they were getting frustrated even at 1-0 up. Sorry, so
yeah,
that shows that we did a half decent job to start with. And then it was funny at half time we're sitting there going, "Oh, 1-0, well done. Let's maybe go for it in the second half." And as soon as we stood up from 15 minutes sitting on the benches, it's like, "Oh, I'm tight already." So the second half, after 15 minutes, in the second half, I think everybody's legs, you could see it kind of started to go, and it was the writing was on the wall from there. It could have been 5, 6, 7. I kind of ended up 5, but it maybe could have been more, unfortunately.
So have you got any other kind of Scottish Cup memories over the years?
Oh, Scottish Cup. Partick Thistle away with Cove, getting beat 2-0. Can't really think off the top of my head too many appearances. Just been fortunate enough to twice be in the fourth round to Fraserburgh. Twice get Rangers, really. Unheard of.
Hoping for a big team this.
So you get the hat trick this year. I think the chairman and the board would be happy if we picked up our Rangers again, but I can't see it. But any round of the Scottish Cup's good. It's a good distraction. It's a good gauge against your quality against a slightly better opposition, even though it's League Two. It's quite a good challenge to get some of these League Two clubs. A lot of teams or people say that a Highland League kind of top 3 or 4 is as good as some of these League Two clubs, so it's good to kind of pitch yourself in against them. Sometimes you get a shock just how good they actually are. You think you're supposed to in certain games, you're not, but no, it's a good test.
Yeah. So how did you play much in the League Cup? group stages when you had that spell, after winning the league?
So played a couple. I missed the Kilmarnock. I think it was Kilmarnock that was up. Missed the Kilmarnock game because I think they did pretty well. But again, I didn't think any Highland League club really have embarrassed themselves when they played against some of these top clubs. It shows you a good standard in the Highland League, to be honest.
So, in terms of so far in your career, who do you think's been the best player you've played against?
It's probably hate me some of them Rangers players that I've played against. If you ask Ross Aitken, it's probably Hefty, the left wing, him going up and down. But these lads that we played against for Rangers, to be fair, we watched them on the TV, and I know a lot of people will criticise them how they play, but it's not until you come up against them you realise they're absolute athletes. They're not just technically good football players. They're sharp, they're quicker, they're stronger, and sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and say, look, all around these boys are at a different level from us.
So who would you say has been the best player you've played with so far?
Played with in the Highland League, the two strikers that I like playing up with a decent striker, I would have to give. I've already mentioned Graham Johnston. First time that I was at Broch, he was an unbelievable player to play with, and at Cove would be Martin Johnston. So again, MJ is just a different level. He brought all those midfielders into play. He must have been a nightmare for defenders because he's probably bigger, stronger, he's good in the air, his touch is brilliant. Just an exceptional football player, to be honest, and great person to play with, and just a great all-round kind of guy.
Yeah, so in terms of going back to Cove a bit, you mentioned how you scored the winner in that final day win to win the title. How great was that? And
yeah, so again, due to work commitments, the way the last game of the season landed, I was meant to be away, but I got a favour again to delay my trip to go away and managed to play the last game of the season, and it was, I don't know if you remember it at all, but absolute pushing in the rain and putting my head in it for Martin. But again, there's still a decent crowd with it being the league decider, and I've been a strong Cove team, it's a good for Martin team as well, and luckily enough we came out on top and managed to notch a wee head out of Cove 1-0.
What do you think's been the difference between how Cove have done in terms of winning Highland Leagues compared to for Martin? What do you think's been the?
So I can't talk about for Martin too much. It's never been part of their setup.
Yeah.
They've always had really great squads, teams, players, etc. But what I can say is with Cove, when you arrive at Cove, they've just got a different mentality to most. It is, we will win. There's no questions about it. You're expected to win. You turn up to training, you're expected to win your games at training. You turn up on a Saturday, it doesn't matter where you go. You could be, I know they struggled against the Broch in the later stages of the Highland League, but regardless of where Cove went as a club, you just were expected to win. There was no if, buts, and maybes. It was you went and you won, and that was it. It doesn't matter how you played, what you done, you won the game of football and you moved on. So the mentality of the club at that time, from what they've done, I'm guessing it's similar still. But it was a bit of an eye opener coming from Fraserburgh to Cove at that time. I wouldn't say that scenario at Fraserburgh now, but when you went to Cove, it was just like I said, Eric Watson is your captain, and at the time it was just we win games of football, and that's it.
Yeah. So what was he like to play with? Obviously, he's a sort of person, high expectations, high demands, kind of.
Yeah, great. Brilliant captain, exactly what you want from a captain. Great person off the pitch. Be an absolute nightmare to play against him. Nightmare to play against him. Everybody knows Eric. He'll do everything he can, bite, scratch, pull, everything. But as a captain, as a skipper for a club, brilliant. He'll have your back on every scenario that there is. If you're in his team, he's always on your side. Just a really good captain, excellent kind of captain.
How do you feel about kind of having your testimonial, and how long you've been at Fraserburgh?
Privileged first to say that I could get one. So that's the first thing. Thanks to everybody at Fraserburgh for the testimonial. We've had a good year so far. We had a good golf outing. We've got Peterhead selected. We were in touch with Aberdeen. to get, then they couldn't really commit due to they didn't know what was going to happen with our European schedules, etc. And we decided to commit to Peterhead, and you see Aberdeen's now kind of released their pre-season schedule, and there's quite a lot of Highland League clubs that have got an Aberdeen 11 coming to them, which is fine. Just at the time for us, we felt it was better and a great fixture getting Peterhead as well, being a local derby. So we've got Peterhead coming on the 5th of July. So hopefully get a good game and a decent crowd to come and watch us now. A decent day of weather. It's a problem here. It'll be maybe warm, sunny, but a 50-mile-an-hour wind coming across just all.
Oh yeah, definitely is a Bell's Lee. I mean, some of the windstorm. I don't know how you play at it sometimes.
That's the thing. It doesn't matter. Even you come out of your house and you think, "Oh, this is all right," and then you turn up at Bell's Lee, just 40-mile-an-hour wind coming down the hill towards the Garage End, and you're not well. It's another game like yesterday, is it?
Yeah. So what in terms of your career, what's your kind of favourite away day in terms of Highland League or generally?
So my best, kind of touched upon it already. I don't know if it's because I played there or not. The pitch I like going to most, Turriff, as an away pitch. I think the pitch, for the issues they have at Turriff with the flood and everything, the pitch is, I think, one of the best in the league, especially at the start of the season. It's immaculate. The setup, the ground, everything they've got going on at Turriff. I think, as I say, you can tell there's a lot of good people there, and it's a great place to play as an away player as well as a home player.
So how have you? What do you make of kind of how the Highland League has changed? Do you think the quality and kind of certain aspects of the Highland League have changed over the years?
So I was speaking to somebody else that used to play in the Highland League, and they were saying how they thought the standard was a lot lower than it was before. But when you look at teams like Beagrie and Broch just now, I think they could probably have competed with any of the teams, ourselves included. Got locals that are a good team now, Broch. A lot of these teams could easily have competed, let's say, 10 years ago. It's just a different type of league. I think there's a few of the big names then that people talk about, so to say, but maybe in 10 years' time they'll talk about like the bigger names just now, and there'll kind of always be that cycle when people will think it was better 10 years ago than it is now. But no, as we said, you can tell by the runs clubs having the cups, etc. Nowadays, I think the Highland League's still at a good standard, that's for sure. The longer Brie can stay in the league, for me, the better, because you'd rather play against the higher standard a team. So I know they're on about dividing the leagues up, but for me personally, I'd rather Brecon were in the Highland League. It would have been better if Falkirk Forfar even had been relegated as well. And if East Kilbride had come up, then we could have had Brecon, Forfar, plus the top kind of 6-7 in the Highland League, which would have made it an excellent league to be part of. So, which might sound strange if you want to win the league next year, having your Brecons and that in it, but for the Highland League, I think it's better. The better the clubs, the better it is for the league, definitely.
Yeah. Do you think fitness-wise it's changed in terms of you have to be fitter, or?
Probably. You'll see that with pre-season nowadays. There's no need to do the big beach runs anymore, or we certainly don't. All the players come back in relatively good nick. There's nobody overweight or severely overweight that needs to go out and do too much extra. So there's a lot more kind of the ball work, or a lot more sharp stuff, intense stuff than there is the old school kind of let's go run 20 minutes along the beach and come back, which I personally think is better, to be honest.
So in terms of the managers you've played under, who have been the best for you, and what was it that helped you in terms of that?
I think they all have their own traits. We've got if we're talking previous managers rather than current managers, Charlie, as I said, he was, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So brilliant, perfect for a 16-year-old. Didn't ask for anything more. Tyndall, Cove, excellent manager. We came from quite far behind, to be honest, in the end, and beat for Martin, and a lot of it was to do with his motivation and his belief in the team. A lot of time for Tins was very good to me, even though I worked away, playing still, etc. So excellent manager. And then you had Ross Jack at Turriff, who, again, a lot of people out with the kind of club said they weren't fans of Ross Jack. I think he's one of the best managers I've ever been in the Highland League, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
I think the way he sets a team up, what he gets from a team, how he gets his message across, you could tell he was at a higher level. A huge respect for Ross as well and what he's done and what he did for us at Turriff as a club. So I can't argue the managers I've had in the past. They've all been individually excellent and personally really good guys to work with.
Yeah, so in terms of your career going forward, is there any kind of targets? Obviously, you want to get that Highland League Cup
Highland League Cup.
in the bag.
Last this season without any injuries.
Is that the...
That's what it's come to now when you're at this age. Play as many games as I can now. Enjoy it. I don't have too much long left in my legs to play football with knee injuries or sore knees, etc. like that. So play as much as I can, enjoy it as much as I can. And I think the big thing for us older ones now is to try and help the youth come along as well. Is probably what one of my aims will be for this season, is trying to help the youth team out.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. Make sure to subscribe on your chosen podcast platform. Hope you can join me next time for another interesting interview.